Considering the fact that I kicked off Pride Month by doing my analysis of Shane coming out to Rose scene, it makes sense that my last Heated Rivalry video for June would wrap up with yet another scene that I find quite pivotal for Shane and Ilya's relationship and everything it says about society's expectations and how it does force some queer folks to hide or pretend to be who we aren't. I am, of course, referring to the tattoo club scene, complete with the bisexual lighting. Of course, before I start talking, I would first like to extend my sincere apologies for the 2 weeks break that I took, whereby I didn't make any content. I was again laid up, was on the verge of a burnout, but thankfully I recognized the signs early and just decided to take 2 weeks to recalibrate and get my head back in gear and ultimately save myself because the last time I did not notice my burnout creeping on me early enough, it forced me to not be able to make any content or do anything creative whatsoever for almost 18 months. So, sacrificing 2 weeks made some sense for me. So, yeah, if you ever feel a creative burnout creeping in, just trust me, a week or two of you taking a break does wonders. I'm just saying. Now, onto my disclaimer for my What You Miss series. Please note that these are just my thoughts and opinions as I watch and rewatch the show, with occasional flashes of insight that pop in due to me having read the books and being a lover of them as well. However, I am not about to designate myself as being the absolute authority on everything as it plays out in the show, since it's important we all remember that media is meant to be enjoyed, usually through our own interpretations and personal lenses. And as long as one isn't being bigoted or an absolute asshole, I'm usually more of a shrug. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions, just like I am entitled to mine kind of girl. So, once again, thank you all for giving me the chance to yap about this show. And whilst we're at it, I would also like to say a big thank you to my lovely patrons and YouTube members whose support have been instrumental in helping me continue to make content, especially since I started doing this full time at the start of last year, which was the last time I was in paid employment. And a special shout out to Lina, Sherry, Kat, and Holly for their extra support. You get all the hearts and kisses to mwah. If you too would like to support me on Patreon or become a YouTube member to enjoy certain perks, even get a shout out, the link to do so is in the description bar. Now, just as I say with this series, I will always be of the opinion that to fully appreciate and understand the nuances in a scene, it's always important to acknowledge its setup, i.e., the scenes that predate it, which set up the context for what we're about to witness. And with this scene analysis being for the tattoo club scene, then it's important that we start a bit prior to when our characters walk into the club. In this case, we start off with them being on the ice. Now, we start off by establishing that this game between Montreal and Boston is the first official one ever since one, Shane walked away from Ilya at that moment of vulnerability, post tuna melt scene, and ran headlong into meeting and then starting to date Rose. Two, this is the first Shane and Ilya are playing against each other ever since Shane and Rose became publicly known as an official couple. So already we established the fact that there is some tension there. There is the secrets between Shane and Ilya and their relationship that nobody but them knew about, a relationship that had effectively skidded to a halt after Shane bolted. There's also the fact that we know Ilya is at this point in time smarting really hard. One, because Shane left, and two, because Shane left and got himself a girlfriend that Shane, can be public with in a way that and Ilya can never be. But more importantly, he understands that whilst with him, being photographed with numerous women is just Ilya playing the field, not really being in a committed relationship with them. Things with Shane are distinctly different. Shane and Rose are coupled up in the public eye, Canada's golden boy that Ilya used to have in his bed, but not anymore. And so all of this already sets tensions to boil for them. You then couple that with the fact that the stakes for this game is high. If Montreal wants to stand a chance to be at the top of their division, then Shane needs to win this game for his team. And he knows that Ilya wouldn't be backing down from this. Ilya that Shane is trying hard not to think about but can't help himself when after he receives his pre-game text from his girlfriend, he finds himself scrolling down to his last text from Ilya, hinting at the fact that Shane in that moment Is thinking of he and Ilya's pre-game ritual, whereby they text each other something flirty, filled with innuendos and plans to secretly meet afterwards, but which he has now lost all access to now that their relationship is somewhat defunct. And that is the energy that he and Ilya both bring on the ice, something that reflects in their plays, that commentators notice is listless and lacking any energy. Of course, we notice that in their interactions, they both seem to be trying to pick up on the other person when said person isn't really looking. Ilya has his eyes on Shane as he slams him into the board, something that previously used to segue into them fucking, but now Shane can't even meet his eyes, and Shane sits on the bench, unable to keep his eyes from drifting in Ilya's direction, whilst Ilya doesn't even look back at him. Once again, a vast difference from previous occasions when their eyes meet and they smile in that they both have a secret that no one else knows kind of way. The distinct lack of energy in their play is reflected in the discordant state of their relationship because Ilya and Shane both bring out their ferocious best when they are also in each other's beds. And one can say that the lack of spark of fire on the ice is also a metaphorical state of being for their relationship with other people that just doesn't have that energy or connection. They only share it with each other. It makes sense, therefore, that after the commentators wonder where either of them are, we cut to Ilya in the bathroom glaring at his own reflection because in that moment he is pissed. He's pissed that Shane is with Rose. He's pissed that Shane looks happy with Rose, that maybe Rose is able to give Shane something that Ilya cannot. That moment in the sun is also immensely pissed that Shane is throwing him off his game, both literally and metaphorically, i.e., Ilya isn't bringing his best to the ice, nor has it been with other people, read women, ever since Shane walked away. And so that is the impetus that has him give the fuck this shit, I need to get laid, we need to go to a club now comment to his teammate. The goal for him is to get over Shane, but as we know, narratively speaking, he is haunted by Shane, by their memories, by the feelings he cannot suppress or change no matter how hard he tries or struggles. Ends of all the clubs in Montreal that he could have walked into with the rest of the Raiders, he walks into the one where Shane is with Rose. Like Ilya Rozanov really cannot get a break. Shane, on the other hand, is present in the bar with Rose because at this moment, compulsory heterosexuality is forcing on him this situation whereby he has to at least try at being the perfect boyfriend for Rose. He's playing pretend and overcompensating as a result. So not only is he trying to convince himself that he can be with Rose, which is the acceptable thing, he's also forcing himself to be at the club when that is not who Shane is. The same way in which when he arrives after talk of the lackluster game, he talks about wanting a beer. That is Shane being performative, performing at a version of masculinity and heterosexuality that doesn't actually fit him. I've said it before, but I do think that the bisexual lighting in this scene is such a brilliant touch because, yes, it fits for Ilya, who is a damn proud bisexual man in the story, but it also speaks to Shane, who is trying to convince himself that maybe he isn't gay. Maybe he can find some sort of feelings for Rose, which would, when you put it together, maybe make him bisexual in a way that would have him put Ilya behind him and embrace Rose as this perfect partner for him. Of course, we know this doesn't happen. Shane Hollander is very much gay. But at this point, he's still trying to figure it out to see what labels fit. And I think at the club, he was still maybe hoping that bisexual might fit for him, which of course makes the end of the night a very crucial one for Shane and with the audience's realization. But I will get to that in a bit. Anyway, Rose leads Shane to the dance floor after asking Miles to get them champagne, which is such a great way to highlight yet another fundamental difference between Rose and Ilya as a partner to Shane, i.e., with Ilya, Shane doesn't actually have to state it. He's very much aware and in sync with the fact that Shane prefers ginger ale, hence why Ilya has stocked his fridge with the drink. Rose's request for champagne, on the other, speaks further to the incompatibility that her not really being aware of what Shane needs. The fact that both instances happens in the very same episode is a great way to highlight this difference. But anyway, Miles heads to the bar and we see Ilya, who we get to see in the moment is really not the asshole that everyone thinks he is. Of all the hockey players gathered at the bar, is the only one speaking to the bartender, apologizing on behalf of his teammates as he places his order with a please attached to it. It's so far removed from what one would expect from a rich, successful athlete. After all, how someone treats those in the service industry says a lot about their character. Miles hears Ilya's voice and turns to look at him. Now, I have seen some people talk about Miles having recognized Ilya in that moment, but I personally beg to differ since I read that a bit differently. We already established that Miles watched the game as a sweaty blur. He's not really a hockey fan like Rose is, so the chance of him recognizing hockey star Ilya Rozanov is very low. What I read that as instead was that he saw a hot, attractive Russian man who might be queer and his gaydar pinged and he was trying to express his interest. Ilya, on the other hand, definitely recognized Miles. He's, after all, been following, read, stalking Shane and Rose's relationship, which by extension means that he's very much following Rose's every move. She's, after all, his rival as far as Shane is concerned. And so I am fairly certain that he recognizes Rose's co stars, of which Miles is the most likely a very known one, considering that he and Rose are also friends. And so the minute Ilya sees Miles, it immediately hits him that Rose must be nearby. And with Rose nearby, his sixth sense is tingling that Shane will not be far behind. Which is why he freezes and then does the Terminator room scan, bracing himself for what he knows he is most likely about to see. Rose with Shane in the same room, the same space that he is in, and Ilya knows it is going to hurt. You can just see him as he braces himself for it. And sure enough, he gets that confirmation, sees them together, takes that deep, stealing breath, grabs his drink, turns back around, watches Shane dancing with Rose some more, with the latter happy to be in his arms, and Ilya walks away. At which point, it is Shane's turn. He's dancing with Rose until he spots Marley and some of the raiders, and it hits him that Ilya is right there, haunting him, most likely in this very same club, which I think just hits so well because when we consider Shane and Ilya's relationship slash their hookups, every time the Metros and the Raiders played against each other, after they were done, he and Ilya always met up. Whether it's at the hotel room or at each other's apartment, it's always been their thing that they follow up each game day by spending the night in each other's beds. That is how their mess of a relationship had worked for almost a decade. And now, even though they are sort of separated, the universe still forces them back into close proximity after the game, as is their usual practice, except this time around they aren't in each other's arms. Shane is with Rose, and as his eyes scan the room looking for Ilya, he finds him dancing with a woman, a strange woman, kissing her right across from him. And as Shane is processing that, what he's seeing and the emotions that that is evoking in him, emotions that are meant to create the avenue for self reflection for Shane with regards what he wants and who he is, the moment plays out to further drive home that point. He has Rose in front of him, dancing with him, an act that is representative of the cis heteronormativity that would see him settle down with a woman as is expected of him. And behind him is Miles, the tempter, who is grinding up against Shane because clearly Miles is attracted to him and also represents his attraction to other men. Both Miles and Rose are dancing with him. It's a great way to show Shane's emotional state and him being caught up in the middle of those feelings, trying to navigate his sexuality, whilst his only focus in the moment is on Ilya. Because Ilya is the linchpin, Ilya is the one, the only one that truly matters. And so he steps away from the pretense about going to the bathroom, but then he stops when he's across from Ilya and can't help looking at him with this other woman. Ilya, who notices Shane's gaze, then once again does the performative bit of being into the woman he's dancing with because he is trying to make a statement, partly about what Shane is missing by not being with him, and also partly that he's not hung up on Shane either. And as their eyes meet and stay glued to each other, Ilya watching Shane watching him, it's all set to the lyrics of all the things she said. Which, when you listen to it, talking about the spoken words running through their heads, how being with the other person has been such a perfect surprise, it fits. It fits their story. And of course, at the end of the night, Shane brings Rose to the apartment. As she walks up the stairs after stepping out of her dress, her ass perky and perfect and beautiful, and just, God damn it, So finalist is so fucking hot. We see Shane have a vastly different reaction compared to when we saw Ilya in his apartment walking up the stairs, where neither he nor Ilya could keep their hands or mouth off each other. This time around, Shane looks like he's headed to his death instead of him being about to have sex with a gorgeous woman. Ilya, on the other hand, jerks off alone in the shower. Clearly, he doesn't bring the other woman to the hotel with him. It's interesting because the show is very different from the books in this regard. Now, in both, Ilya does spend the night alone, but the book makes it clear that the reason why the strange woman doesn't end up in Ilya's hotel is because she's at the club with her boyfriend. And the two of them seem to have an exhibitionist so-called kink that Ilya doesn't really fuck with, hence why he walks away. We don't get any of that in the show. Hell, maybe it still happened, but I do prefer how Jacob doesn't actually show or confirm anything like that, because that way we are able to read Ilya being alone in his room in whatever way we want and for whatever reason that we want to go with. And for me, I would rather lean more on the fact that Ilya, after seeing Shane leave with Rose, just couldn't bring himself to feign interest in anyone else. And so his plans of getting back on his game by going to the club kind of went bust thanks to Shane. It's a very important bit of Ilya's characterization that we consider the importance of the scene, especially in connection to the tuna melt scene that came way before it. What do I mean by that? Well, after they've had their tuna melts and they are chatting, we have the moment in that scene when Ilya brings up the fact that he's been with other people, women specifically, especially Svetlana, who is a friend that he fucks on occasion. Now, we know this is Ilya sourcing for information, trying to see where Shane is at or where Shane wants them to be. And of course, the end of the scene doesn't play out that way, the way in which Ilya had wanted, what with Shane leaving after they were done frotting. But I also think it's very important to note that pre-tuna melt, Ilya Rozanov was quite out there having sex with as many women as he can get with. Although we know that Shane is special. Shane, on the other hand, in the books, does have a couple of sexual encounters with other men as he's trying to figure out if he can feel the same way he does with Ilya with the others. Spoiler alert, Ilya Rozanov ruined him for everyone else. And you know what? Fair and valid as fuck. But Shane is not as out there as Ilya is. So I find it just a little bit ironic on poor Ilya's behalf that early on in the episode, he makes it quite clear that he does have sex with other people. And then by the end of the episode, Shane has him by the metaphorical balls and he's unable to maintain his slutty persona. It's a great contrast to have him jerking off alone in the shower whilst thinking of Shane. And Shane, in turn, is having sex with Rose whilst thinking of Ilya. It is just such a brilliant way to wrap up the episode and speaks to how their relationship is developing, even with them being apart. But of course, these are all just my thoughts. I would, as always, love to hear yours. Whether or not you agree with me, please share them in the comments. Like this video, however. If you've watched this far and haven't done so yet, but enjoyed anything of what I had to say, share it so others can find my channel as well. Or you can check out my gaming or SMR channels if they sound like something you might be interested in. I have them both linked in the description bar. I will see you tomorrow with a new video. Until then, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.